Well, g'day, curd nerds. In today's cheese making video, we're going to do something a little bit different. I've always wanted to smoke a cheese, and that's not like smoke a cheese like that, but that is to either cold smoke it or do some other sort of smoking. Now, it wasn't until recently that I learnt how to smoke a cheese. There's only one way really to uh, authentically smoke a cheese, and that's through cold smoking. There are two types of smoking. There's hot smoking, which would basically melt your cheese, so it's just too hot. Cold smoking is a process where you have a fire and you funnel the smoke through to a chamber where the cheese sits and it's cold, and the wood, the smoke permeates through the cheese and adds the flavour. So that's called cold smoking. So that's one way of smoking a cheese. Second way would be to add what's known as a liquid smoke, and you put that over the surface of your cheese and then you cold smoke it. It adds extra flavour. Now, liquid smoke is basically water that has had smoke pumped through it, and it retains the essence of smoke. It's a bit like, I suppose, bong water, if you want to. Those who use marijuana for recreational purposes would know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the smoke passes through the water and you get a flavoured water for smoke. It's called liquid smoke. So that's the second method. And then the final method is to actually put a small amount of liquid smoke into your curds, into your milk at the start of the cheese making process. And then that's called a smoke flavoured cheese. So that's not called smoked cheese or smoked cheddar or smoked whatever, smoked Gouda, but it's smoke flavoured cheese. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a smoke flavoured cheese. And in this instance, I'm going to do a smoke flavoured Gouda, or Gouda, or Gouda. Depends on how you want to pronounce it. Anyway, enough of me chatting and describing the different types of smoking your cheese. Let's get on with the video. So this is the liquid smoke that I managed to get a hold of here. Was from a local barbecue supplier, and I basically used a plastic pipette to draw some out. I didn't trust myself pouring it out, so I used 3.5 mils. Now it did say on the back to use a teaspoon per kilogram of or whatever you were going to cure or put flavour. So I figured that the final cheese would be about a kilogram. So I put in 3.5 mils of liquid smoke. So there it is there. The ingredients just say water and natural wood smoke. So the ingredients for this is 10 litres of full cream milk or whole milk, 1/8 of a teaspoon of mesophilic culture, 2.5 mils or half a teaspoon of calcium chloride, 2.5 mils or half a teaspoon of liquid rennet, and 3.5 mils or a third of a teaspoon of liquid smoke flavour and an 18% brine solution. So first of all, add the liquid smoke, and I'm using Hickory flavour here. There was no other flavours to choose from. Now there are apple and I think it's mesquite and cherry wood. There's a whole bunch of flavours that you can add if you can find them. Just bring the temperature up to 29 degrees Celsius or 85 Fahrenheit. And then we're going to add in our mesophilic culture. Now that was 1/8 of a teaspoon. And we sprinkle that all over the top. Now we're going to allow that to rehydrate for 5 minutes. There we go. So that's rehydrated. Now we're going to give that a good stir through the milk. And there isn't really any acidification time for this cheese. It's not a very strong cheese. So we're adding the calcium chloride. And now, after a bit of a stir, we're going to add the rennet. There we go. Now we're not going to stir any longer than 1 minute, because if we do that we start to break up the curd because it starts to set. So we're going to pop the lid on now. Now we're going to allow that to set for 40 minutes. Now it may take up to 50 minutes. In this instance I checked at 40, it wasn't quite right. It took mine 50. Now it depends on the strength of your rennet. Mine was 200 IMCU. Now cut the curd into 1.25 centimetre, or that's 1/2 inch cubes. So I did the horizontals with my curd cutter. I'm doing the verticals with my curd knife there. Now if you don't have a curd cutter, then you may have to do the curds at a 45-degree angles to get the right size. Try and get them evenly sized. Now we're going to let them rest or heal for 5 minutes. So 5 minutes later we're going to stir them ever so gently at the start. Any big chunks, just break those up with a spoon. Now we're going to stir for 5 minutes initially, and just cutting those large pieces where necessary. So towards the end of the 5 minutes, you can see they're fairly small now, evenly cut all the way through. And we're going to let this now rest for 5 minutes. So after all the curds have sunk to the bottom, we're going to remove 4 cups of whey. We're doing this because we want to reduce the acidity of the cheese. This is called a washed curd cheese. So we'll just take out the 4 cups of whey. I'm using the sieve there to make sure I don't get any of the curds while I'm doing this. It's a little trick I learned. There we go. So we're going to add that, replace the whey with 4 cups of water at 60 degrees Celsius. Nice and simple. Now the temperature should be at 33 Celsius or 92 Fahrenheit. I'm going to give that a stir now. I'll stir that for 10 minutes. So the curds have shrunk even smaller, as you can see there. I'm going to let that settle again for 10 minutes because we're going to wash the curds again. So after the 10 minutes, we're now going to remove the whey down to the level of the curd. So there's a fair bit of whey that comes out here until you find the level of the curds. So give it a quick stir, and then we're going to replace it with water. Now the temperature of the water is 45 degrees Celsius. And then give that a good stir. So we're going to check the temperature. So the overall temperature should now be at 37 degrees. Now, in my case, it was 39, so I had to put in a bit of cold water from the fridge. I had some boiled water that we keep there. So I just kept putting in a little bit of water, measuring the temperature again, just checking to see when it hit 37. So it took a few goes, and then we got down to 37 eventually. Now, I only probably added an extra cup of water to get that temperature down to the right amount. So we're going to stir for 20 minutes now to shrink the curds further. So after 20 minutes, you can see that the curds are fairly small. They're about the size of baked beans. Now we're going to let those settle again, just to make it easier to drain the curds and whey over in the sink area. Just let those rest for 10 minutes. So take your pot over to the sink area. I've got a cheese mold. That's a 165mm cheese mold, just lined with loose weave cheesecloth there. And just pour your curds and whey through there, and you'll get all the curds. It drains really easily. So get every little bit out there with your clean hands, and then just stretch the sides of your cheesecloth just to make sure you haven't got any of the cheesecloth bunched up, because you'll get lines in the side of your cheese as you press it. So we're going to press the cheese now, lightly at first for the first 30 minutes. So we're going to put the follower on top. Just fold the cheesecloth over first, follower on top. I'm going to put it into my spring press there. Put my 50-pound or 22-kilo spring on top. Then wind that down. Now, as I mentioned, this is a light pressing just to form the basic structure of the cheese first. So about 10 kilos or 22 pounds. So it's about roughly halfway. So that's for 30 minutes. So after the 30 minutes, we're just going to take it out of the press. We're going to undress it and then rewrap it, pop it back in the mold again, and repress at a firmer pressure. So just turn it over. You just got to be a bit gentle, because hopefully it won't fall apart. If you haven't pressed it hard enough, it may fall apart, so just be very careful during this first turnover. So we're going to press it at 13 kilos or 30 pounds for 12 hours or overnight. It won't hurt a few hours longer. So the next day, I've just taken it out of the press and we're going to put it into the brine. This is an 18% saturation for 12 hours. And we're going to turn once at the 6-hour mark. So after the 12 hours, we're going to now air dry the cheese. You won't need to pat the cheese down or anything like that. Just pop it on a bamboo mat, on a bamboo chopping board or whatever wooden board you've got. Let that air dry. And then you can wax or vacuum pack it. I've chosen to vacuum pack it this time. There's my smoked Gouda. I'm going to mature it at 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, 50 to 54 Fahrenheit for 6 weeks or longer. And there it is. Don't forget to turn it weekly during maturation. So that was it, curd nerds. Pretty simple. Once you put in the liquid smoke, it's as easy as making a traditional Gouda. In this instance, I vac packed this one. In the last video, I waxed it. So we're going to see what that difference makes as well. So in a few months' time, there'll be a taste test video for this one. If you would like to see the original Gouda video, then click through over here. If you want to buy the ingredients or the kit for this cheese, then just click through over here to go to littlegreenworkshops.com.au. And don't forget that you can also subscribe to the channel just by clicking through over here. Thanks for watching, curd nerds, and I'll see you next time.